You're sitting on the couch. The TV plays quietly. Neither of you watches it. There's a coffee table between you that suddenly feels like an ocean. You glance over. They look right through you. You swallow the lump. You tell yourself it's fine, but inside you're screaming. Why does this keep happening? Did I fall out of love, or did they? Is this just what forever feels like now? Am I the problem? You're not failing at love. The relationship didn't get harder because your love faded. It got harder because your safety did. Every couple that has ever loved deeply has stood exactly where you are right now. And by the time this video ends, you will finally understand why your nervous system keeps reacting the same way, how your attachment blueprint is quietly steering your connection, and exactly how to step out of the cycle so love stops feeling like work and starts feeling like coming home. Let's get into it. Most couples believe that drifting apart happens because they stopped putting in the effort, but the real truth is much quieter and much more human. Your attachment style isn't a personality flaw. It's a survival map your nervous system drew long before you ever met. When safety leaves a relationship, the love doesn't disappear. It goes underground. What looks like coldness is usually fear wearing a heavy coat. What looks like neediness is a nervous system screaming for a signal. You're still seen. Trying harder never fixes a flooded system. It only thickens the walls. You can't logic your way into emotional safety. You have to feel it. Emotional distance isn't like a wall. It's scar tissue forming slowly over 100 small moments that never got repaired. Once you stop fighting your patterns and start understanding them, everything shifts. You stop taking triggers personally. You start recognizing them as language. So let's break down the 5 invisible dynamics keeping you stuck and exactly how to rewrite them. 1. The pursuit-protection dance. Here's the part no one talks about. Most couples fall into a rhythm where one partner leans in for reassurance. The other quietly steps back to catch their breath. But beneath the surface, this isn't a clash of personalities. It's 2 nervous systems trying to solve the same panic using opposite survival blueprints. Your anxious side is wired to bridge the gap when it feels threatened. Your avoidant side is wired to preserve energy when it feels flooded. You both actually want safety. You're just asking for it on completely different frequencies. Not louder arguments, not scheduled date nights, not reading more relationship books. Just a shift in how you meet the moment. When you feel them pulling away, instead of chasing, you drop your shoulders. You slow your pace. You say, "I'm right here when you're ready. Take the space you need." And instead of shutting down, they put the phone down. They make eye contact. They say, "I need 20 minutes to reset so I can actually listen." This isn't a communication hack. It's what 2 emotionally grounded humans naturally do when they choose safety over speed. Her brain is quietly registering, "He actually wants me to breathe, not perform." And that's when the frantic chase dissolves, and the space between you stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a bridge. 2. The complaint that isn't about the complaint. Most people in relationships mistake surface grievances for actual wounds. So they argue about logistics while completely missing the longing underneath. The truth is, criticism is rarely about the behavior itself. It's a nervous system translating unmet attachment needs into blame. When connection drops, your brain doesn't say, "I need you to notice me." It says, "You never listen to anything." The complaint is just the echo. The need is the voice. Not keeping score, not making spreadsheets, not demanding apologies. just decoding the subtext. When you hear, "You always leave things chaotic," instead of defending your timeline, you gently say, "It sounds like you're feeling invisible when the house feels heavy. Is that it?" And instead of snapping back, your partner softens. They drop their guard. They whisper, "Yeah, I just needed to feel like you care about the mess as much as I do." But here's what nobody explains. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. What's moving through you in that pause is, "They finally heard me without me having to scream." And that's the exact moment the kitchen stops being a battlefield and turns into a quiet place where two people finally choose each other. 3. The silence that screams. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Most people label withdrawal as stonewalling, assuming it's a deliberate punishment. But what looks like cold indifference is almost always a flooded system pulling the emergency brake. When emotional input exceeds capacity, the brain literally disconnects to prevent collapse. Silence isn't rejection. It's a biological timeout. The walls go up not to keep you out. They go up to keep them from drowning. Not forcing conversation in the storm. Not throwing accusations. Not demanding instant vulnerability. Just honoring the overload. Instead of pacing the hallway, you sit nearby. You keep your voice low. You say, "I can see you're carrying a lot right now. I'm not leaving."
We can talk when your system settles. And instead of walking out, they stay. They take a slow breath. They murmur, "Thank you. I just needed to know you weren't giving up." This isn't a trick for avoiding conflict. It's what it looks like when someone has learned to love without losing themselves in the process. Something in him is quietly saying, "She doesn't need me to fix this. She just needs me to stay." And when you do that, the silence stops feeling like abandonment and starts feeling like the exact pause you both needed. 4. The repair window you're missing. Here's where it gets really interesting. Most couples believe that if a fight gets messy, the connection is already broken. So they let small ruptures pile up until resentment takes root. But attachment science shows us something vital. It's never the conflict that damages the bond. It's the missed repair. Your nervous system doesn't track perfection. It tracks recovery. When you miss the window to soften, the brain files the moment as another proof point. It says, "We aren't safe together." The rupture isn't the problem. The lingering echo is. Not waiting for pride to cool. Not drafting mental rebuttals. Not pretending it didn't matter. Just stepping back into the ring. Instead of letting hours turn into days, you touch their arm. You look them in the eye. You say, "I got defensive back there. That wasn't fair. Can we try that moment again?" And instead of keeping score, they lean in. They drop their shoulders. They say, "Yeah, I overreacted too. I'm glad we're still trying." And here's what changes everything. This isn't about managing your tone. It's about becoming a person who values the relationship more than the ego. What's moving through both of you is, we survived that. We actually chose each other. And that's the exact moment your partner stops feeling like a problem to manage and starts feeling like a person to come home to. 5. The curiosity that rebuilds safety. This is the final piece that holds it all together. Most couples operate on assumption instead of inquiry, treating their partner like a finished book they already know how to read. But intimacy isn't built in the grand declarations. It's built in the 30-second windows where you choose to wonder. When curiosity replaces certainty, Your nervous system steps out of defense mode. You stop projecting your history onto their behavior. You start seeing them as they are right now. Not scheduling weekly check-ins, not using therapy speak to manage conflict, not guessing what they're thinking. Just asking. Instead of assuming they're distant because they're pulling away, you pause. You lean in.
You ask, "What's actually on your mind tonight?" And instead of giving a one-word answer to end the conversation, they sit up. They make eye contact. They say, "Honestly, I've been carrying this work stress, and I didn't want to dump it on you." And here's what changes everything. You don't need to read minds. You just need to become a partner who leads with openness instead of certainty. What's moving through you is they aren't a puzzle. They're a person waiting to be met. And that's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one that feels like a refuge. These aren't tips for a better relationship. They're an invitation to show up differently. When you internalize this, you stop reacting to triggers and start responding to needs. Your partner will feel the difference before you've even said a word. You're becoming the kind of secure, emotionally available presence that heals the room simply by walking into it. The relationship you want starts the moment you stop waiting for it to get easier and decide to be what makes it real. If this resonated, hit subscribe and stay for the next deep dive into how we actually build lasting connection. You're doing the work, and it's going to be worth it.